What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show with me, Sean Sheehan, here on Sherdog.com. And I am back with the trending news for the week in the world of mixed martial arts and a little bit aside as well. First things first, apologies for the background. It's a bit of a mess at the moment. We're under construction, so I think we should have maybe one or two podcasts like this the way it is. Apologies, the noise might be a bit off as well while we're under construction, but we will be back to normal. But today we're going to talk about three topics. I want to talk about Gable Steveson and his MMA debut at the weekend. I'm going to start with that. I want to talk about Diego Lopes as well and what changed for him at the weekend. And then I want to talk a little bit about Zuffa boxing as well, because obviously looking up at the trending topics of the weekend, that was definitely one. I'm normally not a boxing guy, but when it's Zuffa boxing and it's connected to Dana White and the UFC, I definitely feel like it's worth talking about. But let's start with Gable Steveson first. He made his MMA debut at the weekend, beating Braden Peterson in 138 of the very first round. And I'm sure I'm talking to everyone here. We know exactly who Gable Steveson is, the Olympic NCAA wrestler, one of the most decorated, one of the best ever. Our guy Keith Chillen, I was talking about him, his favorite wrestler and fighter and everything like that. And with reason, this guy is one of the most amazing prospects to ever come into MMA, considering what he has done outside of the world of MMA. Now it's a changing landscape, obviously, as we know. It's not just, you can't just be a wrestler or a jiu-jitsu player or a kickboxer anymore. It takes a lot more than that. But it's exciting to see him coming. Now, Gable Steveson is one of those guys who has a history behind him, good, I suppose, in terms of the NCAA and the Olympics and all of that, and very, very successful. And then obviously he went the WWE route rather than going the UFC route first of all, and that didn't work out for him. It's a different skill set as well. You can't just rely on your physical ability there. Obviously, it's a big part of it, but you have to be able to talk and, understand the business and all of that. And I think that was a big issue for him. Then he tried American football, I believe, as well. Again, a thing that's going to be very, very tough to do, no matter how good athletically you are, taking up, I'm sure he's played it before, but taking up a new sport like that's going to be very, very tough. So now it's to MMA. And, as well, I suppose a lot of people, talked about his background, and there's some, obviously the athletic part of it, but also like the outside of the cage stuff as well, with, talks over, his, things he's been through in college and things he was accused of and all different things like that, where I think coming into WWE, coming into the NFL and everything like that would normally bring all those things up, I suppose, and make it, if it was going to be a big issue, it would be a big issue. Whereas when you come into the UFC, as we know, a lot of things are not even talked about, or swept under the carpet in terms of the coverage around, or the questions he will be asked. So for anyone thinking about that point that's out there, it's one that I don't think will be a big issue for him in MMA, because it wasn't in WWE or in his short stint, obviously going to look to get to the NFL. So to me, he's on a straight road now. To me, in terms of analyzing the position. So I saw the fight at the weekend. His first fight. He's been training obviously for a few months with John Jones and Brandon Gibson and things like that. And two things were obvious, right? First of all, he's an unbelievable athlete who, at that level, I believe the guy he fought was 1-0 or 1-1? He's 1-1 around it anyway. He's going to be able to throw guys like that around and beat him easily, right? So that was the first thing that was obvious. He's an athletic beast. The second thing was obvious was he's as green as grass. Like, he made movements in that fight that you wouldn't have to be an expert to look at and go, those are not the sort of things that you will be able to do, no matter how good your wrestling is. in other fights. And I'm not actually talking about the striking here. Look, the striking looked away off it. But look, how long has he actually been striking? If it's a year, I'd say it's probably a long time. And I know he's probably done bits and pieces before, but when he's at it full time now, I'm sure that's the sort of thing will improve. And, you know, I wouldn't critique him on that too much. It was when he got to the ground and he got on top and he was kind of standing above the guy who, you know, young in his career as well and kind of panicking, and, you know, he knew he was going to lose that fight. That to me is something he really, really needs to, you know, put together in his game to go to that next level. So lots and lots and lots to work on. And I think it'd be foolish of me to sit here or anyone to say, oh, just because of what he's achieved in amateur wrestling, collegiate wrestling, or whatever you would call it, that he'll just walk into MMA and be successful. Absolutely not. No, that's not the case. But is he a guy built for possible success in MMA? Absolutely. And what I love, you know, obviously I cover Irish MMA, young guys coming from the very start of their career all the way up to the UFC and ranked fighters, like, you know, obviously we had McGregor and Ian Gary and others like that as well. I'm well used to seeing younger fighters, and obviously this one is a little bit different and a little bit special, but there's no guarantee that they will be great. I've seen some really talented guys who thought, Jesus, this guy, he's made for it, and then it just doesn't work. So I would be patient with Gable Steveson. I saw, you know, my guy Keith saying, oh, the UFC should sign him straight away. If I'm the UFC, what I do is keep in touch with Gable Steveson. I think is it Malky Kawa's his manager? I think it is, or the Kawa brothers anyway. Be like, look, don't sign for PFL. Don't take that money yet. Let's get you in LFA. Let's get you 2-3 more fights. Let's get you to 4-0. And you know what? We'll give you a contender series shot then. And you'll probably win that. And you know what? We'll give you another contender series shot in later on in the year. And then we'll sign you. And we'll give you another 6 months, 4, 5, 6 months to improve before your UFC debut. And you know what? You'll win that against an easy enough opponent and you'll go 7-0. Right? That I think for a heavyweight as well, with the athletic ability of his, is not too tough to put together, right? If that's a 135 pounder or a lightweight or something like that, little bit tougher. You could catch someone who's really, really, really good, like looking in the PFL with Muhammad Ali's grandson. Exactly what happened. But at heavyweight, you can do that. You get him experience, keep him with Brandon Gibson, Greg Jackson, and all those guys. And let's see where this can go. I wouldn't be rushing this at all. So I think that's my talk on Gable Steveson. Really, really excited. But yeah, again, as I was saying with the Irish fighters, it's great to be excited about this. It's great to be excited about watching someone's journey. We all saw the fight at the weekend. We'll see his next fight. We'll probably see every fight he'll ever have. And it's fun. It's absolutely very, very fun. Right, let's talk about Diego Lopes. I've said it a couple of times now, and I'll reiterate it here again. Diego Lopes changed his life last Saturday night. And he changed his life because of the way he fought. In my opinion, he fought a very stupid fight. Like, he could have won that fight. And we saw it in the first round. Like, I thought he started he didn't start slow, but he fought in a slow manner on purpose, I think, which, in my opinion, no, obviously he won, so I was wrong, but he wasn't that straightforward. That's the pace you would want to fight. If you're Silva, you want Lopes to fight at that pace. He fought at that pace, set up the takedown, thinking, okay, right, it's worked out for him now. Keep going to that. Then he stopped kind of going for the takedowns. Fought at not a slower pace, but like an in-the-pocket range at the pace that Silva was now fighting at, and taking all of Silva's best shots. It felt like he wanted to prove a point that I can not only beat you on the ground, I can take all your best shots and then beat you on the feet as well. And that a legend makes. Like, I was listening to Dana White talking about it during the week, talking about Roberto Duran. I think was the boxer he was talking about, how every time Roberto Duran tunes in, I'll be watching, or whoever will be watching. Diego Lopes, in my opinion, now some people might disagree with me, some people might think I'm going over, but for me, I'm talking about Sean Sheehan there. This is the Sheehan show. He became a guy at the weekend that I'll always tune in for now. Like, and he wasn't, to me, he wasn't that guy before, and I liked him before. After that Volkanovski fight, I was thinking, I don't think Volkanovski's at his best, and he lost. Like, so I'm thinking, he's not the best fighter in the world, but you don't need to be the best fighter in the world to be a guy I tune in for every week. Or not every, but every time he fights. Like, I loved Diego Sanchez. He was one of my favorite fighters to watch. Like, Wonder Boy, I loved one of my favorite fighters to watch. Now, in a different sort of way, but like, in my opinion, Lopez became Max Holloway last night. You know, he became or on Saturday night, he became a Justin Gaethje type of fighter, a Dustin Poirier type of fighter, a guy who you see on a card at the weekend and go, oh, the rest of this card is amazing. But you know what? Diego Lopez is fighting Yair, or Diego Lopez is fighting Aaron Lannon, or Diego Lopez is fighting Edson Barboza. I'm tuning in to watch that, because you know what, Diego Lopez is going to make that fun. The other guy might be fun as well, but Diego Lopez is going to make that fun, and that's why I'm tuning in. And I truly believe that. Like, that was my biggest takeaway. What a great fight as well. Like, what a great fight. Fight of the year contender, no doubt about it. Knockout of the year contender as well. I think that's kind of bypassing people a little bit. I actually think it is. Like, I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago, but Sergio Pettis, like, kind of reminded me of the Sergio Pettis Kyoji Horiguchi knockout, which it won. I know over in Severe May it won knockout of the year. I believe it won knockout of the year in a few different places, but I think it's up there with that. A brilliant knockout, brilliant fight, and Diego Lopez, he became a star. Right, let's talk about Zuffa boxing. And Crawford versus Canelo to begin. Now, as I said, I'm not the biggest boxing fan in the world. I was talking to my colleague Ian O'Neill at the weekend, and he's a big boxing fan. He was saying he'd big fight fields, and I believe that was the case for a lot of people. Not for me personally. I watched a good bit of Canelo, and I like Canelo, but I don't really know much about Crawford and all of that. It's just, I've enough with MMA and soccer and hurling and things. I don't have time for another sport, but to me, it felt like a big event. You know, it was one of those things, if there's if the Super Bowl is on, I know what's happening, you know, or if there's the final of the tennis or something like, you know, you hear about it happening. To me, it was one of those events you hear about it happening. And especially when Dana White is at front and center of it. Saw him all week, heard Dana White talking and doing different interviews. Now, a lot of those kind of car crash interviews, but from my point of view, looking at that, and look, when I look at that, and as I said, I'll say it again, from my point of view is MMA. Right, I don't care about boxing, but I know a lot of people maybe listen to this too. That's your prerogative, no problem. I care about hurling and Man United and all that, and I'm sure a lot of people listening here don't. So, right, yeah, how would you put this? I'd love if Dana White put half the amount of effort he put into MMA. Right, we have some great fights coming up. Like, are you going to be out on Jim Rome and on MSNBC or wherever? Now, those places are in America that I don't know the names of, all the alphabet salad, as people call them. Are you going to be on those shows promoting that? Right, and that this might sound like a scorned ex-boyfriend and girlfriend here or whatever, right? But at the end of the day, MMA is your sport. UFC is your organization, first and foremost. But again, and this, look, I have another 2 or 3 minutes here. This could be 2 or 3 hours. Once the ESPN deal came in where they got 500,000 buys for every event, he didn't need to promote anymore. Now he's 7.7 billion over 7 years. He doesn't need to promote anymore. We're not going to see this with the UFC, but here's a prediction for you. And I do, over in Severe Man, I do my bold predictions at the start of every year. I'll give you a bit of a spoiler here for one. I think Dana White will get sick of boxing very soon. And I think in 2026, he'll tear it all up and go, I can't be dealing with this. You see the picture of him sitting alongside Turkey, whatever his name is, ringside. He looked like he wished he could be anywhere else. Guarantee Dana White was in his room. He probably got the helicopter or the taxi or the bike over from the PI to Allegiant Stadium. And he was watching that Lopez aforementioned fight against Silva. Against John Silva. You're telling me he didn't wish he was at that fight? You're telling me he didn't wish he was at the UFC? And like, I watched the boxing match, you know, I like when there's a great boxing match. That was boring. It was a boring, one-sided bout. Not great. And Dana White said during the week he didn't want podcasts between. There was podcasts between all the boxing matches. to me, it was an atrocious viewing. So I fell asleep, but I woke up the next day to watch more of it. It was like a Saudi propaganda video as well for half, and I was like, I'm turning this off. I think Dana White is no fool, and I think he'll get sick of that very, very quickly. I think it's going to be really, really hard. You know, he's on about doing the Dana White, you know, Wednesday night boxing contender series or whatever. It's going to be tougher to get fighters to, or boxers, sorry, not fighters, to come into that and be part of that like it is with MMA fighters. MMA fighters are absolutely delighted to be given the opportunity. It's going to be tougher. It is going to be tougher, and I think he's going to struggle, and I think he's going to get sick of it, and I think he's probably going to throw in the towel for a while, if you excuse the pun. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Zuffa boxing. Honestly, it's not going to affect me very much, to be honest. I'll either completely ignore it or enjoy it. So all the one to me, I hope it doesn't affect the UFC. But if we hadn't the ESPN deal and we were just coming in to the Paramount Plus deal now, I would say, yeah, big issues, because they're going to stop caring about it. They've already stopped caring about it. So I don't think it can make much of a difference, to be honest. Zuffa boxing, will it affect MMA? No, I don't think it will. All right, everyone. That's it from me for today. The trending news. Let me know in the comment section below if you agree or disagree. Gable Steveson, Lopes, Zuffa boxing. Give me your thoughts on those, but also give me suggestions. What you want me to talk about next week or the week after, whenever it is. I'll have a look at all of those. I'll be in the replies, and we'll talk about them in a future job. But until then, my name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.